sunspots open on the sun could combine to create a strong solar flare coming in today and tomorrow. Two sunspots open on the sun which could combine to create a strong solar flare. They've opened on the surface of the sun, and astronomers have said that the resulting solar flares from both could combine to create a powerful solar storm which could hit our Earth in tomorrow or the day after. NASA's Solar Dynamic Observatory SDO satellite spotted two sunspots on the surface of our star, which have been designed as AR2822 and AR2823, and they're pointing towards us, our Earth. Sunspots are dark patches on the sun which are typically cooler than the rest of the star, as we know. Now, according to space weather, as we see here, Minor Geomagnetic Storm Watch, CME, coronal mass ejection to hit Earth's magnetic field during the late hours of the 17th. This impact was weak, lifting the solar wind speed at a measly 25 kilometers per second. The second, more effective CME might arrive later today, according to NOAA. A minor G1 class geomagnetic storm, therefore still possible on the 18th to the 19th. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. A new sunspot, AR2824, emerging over the sun's northeastern limb, is cracking with C-class solar flares, and NASA's Solar Dynamic Observatory SDO recorded this one as a C1.1 flare at 2:09 UT on May 18th, today that is. Now, what is a C-class flare? The classification of X-ray solar flares. Solar flares is an explosion of the sun that happens when energy stored is twisted in twisted magnetic fields, usually above sunspots, as we see here, for example. That's one there. Is released suddenly, and flares produce a burst of radiation across the electromagnetic spectrum, as we see here. Now, across the electromagnetic spectrum, from radio waves to X-rays and even gamma rays, scientists classify solar flares according to their X-ray brightness in the wavelength range 1 to 8 angstroms, and there are 3 categories. The X-class flares are big. They are major events that can trigger planet-wide radio blackouts and long-lasting radiation storms as well. The M-class flares are medium-sized, and they can cause brief radio blackouts that affect Earth's polar regions. And we have the auroras, of course. Minor radiation storms sometimes follow an M-class flare. Compared to X, the M-class events, C-class flares are small with few noticeable consequences here on our Earth. And we have, as we know, figures from NOAA concerning solar flares detected by them. Satellites July 2000 showing that we've had an increase of the activity of flares at that time. Now, each category of X-ray flares has 9 subdivisions from, for example, C1 to C9, M1 to M9, and X1 to X9. It's a logarithmic scale. M1 is 10 times stronger than C1, and X1 is 10 times stronger than M1, and so on. So, concerning now these solar flares that we're having coming in tomorrow and the day after, when experts say that they're cooler, these solar flares, the average temperature of a sunspot still exceeds 3,500 degrees Celsius, although this is a drop from the average sun surface of 5,500 degrees Celsius. They're typically cooler as sunspots are areas with strong magnetic fields the magnetism is so strong that it actually keeps some of the heat from escaping. But as the magnetic field builds, it increases pressure in the sunspot, which can erupt as a solar flare, as we can see here, or a coronal mass ejection, as we see, say, CME. Now, experts said that both the current sunspots are weak, but the solar flares could merge into something more powerful. In fact, the solar storm could be so strong that it affects Earth satellite technology. Potential storm, solar storm has been categorized as G1, so it's going to be weak. We may just have just increase of auroras, northern lights, and southern lights. The solar storm of this power can lead to weak power grid fluctuations. It can have a minor impact on satellite operations. It's because as particles bombard Earth's magnetic field, it causes it to expand, which makes it harder for satellite signals to penetrate. Astronomer Tony Phillips wrote on his space weather site, and I'll leave links below for you for this, minor G1 class geomagnetic storms are possible on May 18 and 19, that's today and tomorrow, when a pair of CMEs is expected to hit Earth's magnetic field. So two of them will hit us. So that's two of the pair of them. The two CMEs left the sun on consecutive days, one from sunspot AR 2822 on May 13, and the next from sunspot AR 2823 on May 14. Individually, the CMEs appeared to be weak and insubstantial, but they could add up to a geomagnetic storm when they arrive in quick succession today, tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. For the most part, sunspots and the resulting solar flares are relatively harmless. The majority of the time, they will lead to an aurora on Earth at most. In other words, increased northern lights may be a little bit lower than than the Arctic or the Antarctic. Auroras, which include the northern light, the aurora borealis, and the southern lights, the aurora australis, are caused when these solar particles from the CMEs, the solar storm, hit our Earth's atmosphere. And as the magnetosphere gets bombarded by solar winds, stunning blue lights, it's not just blue, I've seen them once when I lived in Canada in Montreal, they're all the colors of the rainbow. Stunning lights can appear as that layer of the atmosphere deflects the particles. I'll leave links below for you on this from Space Weather and also from Sean Martin on Express UK. So let's see here where they will be. This is it right here. That's it right there. Let's go to Europe as well, the Europe map. Okay, over Scandinavia, definitely they'll see it. Let's go Antarctica. Okay, New Zealand. Let's go to New Zealand. Not really. There's New Zealand right there. And let's go to the USA. Okay, Northern Territories. So please leave your comments and thank you for your support.